In California, the minimum wage, I believe, is what is it? $15 an hour? I don't even know. 16 something now, I think they raised it. And except I believe the minimum is 20 for like service workers, for like restaurant workers or whatever. And I've been reading a couple articles where they were talking about how, well, that's great and everything, but now because of the big costs, restaurants are now like firing employees and stuff. And so it's like, okay, was this not a result that you could see where if you're like, I want a higher minimum wage, and the companies will respond and be like, okay, but we can't really afford this, or we want to save money, or maybe we could afford it, but like we know that there's other ways that we can save money, like replacing people with kiosks where they could order from. And so we're going to do all these other things to save money because that's very expensive. And then they fire people. Like you can't think down the line a little bit and think that maybe those kinds of things would happen. Well, apparently, according to some reports, they have, and people are getting fired left and right. And I know like Red Lobster was shutting down. I'm not sure if it had to do. Well, I'm guessing it had to do with money. Why else would a company shut down, right? So, but I'm wondering if like maybe minimum wage situation had anything to do with that. But I don't know for sure. But apparently, California workers now want $30 minimum wage, and I'm like, well, that's great and all, that you want that, but again, like, where does it end? Where do you stop? And like, maybe you don't stop, maybe you keep trying to go for higher and higher minimum wages. But like I just mentioned, like you can only go so far before you start straining the current system so much. You can only force companies to pay so much before they look for alternative ways to save money, like I said, or to not pay that much, whether it's moving out of certain states or creating, like in Taco Bell, digital kiosks where they tell you, actually, can you order on the kiosk instead of up here at the front, which is what they did to me. I was like, because I was trying to like order with them at the front. I was at the desk, the front order place where you order, where you order, the order place at the front of the restaurant. I don't know what you call that. What do you call the where you order? You order there at the cashier. And I was like, today I'm gonna order at the cashier. You probably hear those dogs. I don't know if you do, but they're barking in the house. But anyways, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to like interact with people and order. And I was like, and then they were like, actually, can you order at the kiosk? I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I could do that. So yeah, I mean, they're replacing workers with kiosks because it's much cheaper, I'm assuming, right? A kiosk versus $20 an hour. So like you're like, let's raise minimum wage. Companies fire people. So what's better, having a lower pay or not getting paid at all? That's kind of my question there for you. If anybody's like so for raising minimum wage to 20 for working at a restaurant, that some people are going to disagree with this, but working at McDonald's there's obviously skill to any job, but that's a low skill job. Like there are jobs out there that require much more skill, take a lot more training than just a few months or a couple months to train to do your job. Uh, it's a job that you need for a little while till you move on to get a better job, right? Or if you want, I guess, move within the company up and get like a management position and so on. But it doesn't warrant a forced minimum wage to be a cashier at McDonald's. It just doesn't make any sense. So this says what, $20 minimum wage. Recent report highlighted the ongoing debate surrounding the minimum wage in California. The state recently introduced a $20 minimum wage, which is crazy because that's just going to increase prices for everything. And it's just this cycle, right? You increase minimum wage, that means companies have to pay more. They're going to be like, okay, well, we're going to pay more, so we have to increase pricing. That causes prices to go up. That causes things to be harder on individuals because things are more expensive. They're going to be like, let's increase the minimum wage again so that we can afford these items. And it, I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but that's just like kind of like a cycle that I can kind of like just like think out of my brain and be like, maybe that's something that could happen. You know, there's more to it, I'm sure. Labor and union groups. While labor and union groups have historically pushed for increased minimum wages, recent events suggest that $20 per hour may no longer be sufficient for the cost of living in California. Yeah, well, but the thing is, like, that's not going to solve the problem of the cost of living in California. You're not going to be like, okay, well, let's just raise the minimum wage to $50 an hour so that everybody can be making tons of money. And then that'll solve the problem. There's other problems in California as far as the cost of living goes. Like, those are not necessarily the same problem. Raising the minimum wage is not solving the problem. It's like if I'm trying to sell my car for $100,000, but it's only worth 20,000. Uh, okay, that's a bad analogy. I couldn't figure out the rest of that analogy. But yeah, I guess I'll ask the question: is raising the minimum wage going to solve the problem of the cost of living in California? Is there not other things associated with that? Um, well, as far as the cost of living in California, other than the minimum wage, because you have to think about people don't. I don't think people think too far down the pipeline, which I just mentioned a couple times, where where you increase wages and if you think that solves the problem, yeah, you'll make more money individually, but that creates problems for the business, and then the business has to figure out how to solve those problems, and you're not necessarily going to like the solutions, such as firing you. Slideshow continues on the next slide. Okay, great. Long Beach. Oh, by the way, I'm using Arc browser, which I think I have like an ad blockers installed, but apparently it blocks automatically as well. So maybe that's what it's doing here. This is supposed to be an ad. Long Beach. An example highlighted in this report was approved of a measure in Long Beach to raise hotel workers wages to 23 an hour with plans for further increases to 29.50 by 2028. How much do you want to bet that the hotels are going to find ways to reduce costs? How much you want to bet? You don't think they're going to be like, man, $30 an hour for all our workers increases our costs by what, 33%? Um, hmm. How can we reduce our costs by 33%? Because maybe now our margins are tighter. Maybe we're not making as much money. Maybe we're like even just breaking even in some way, in some like with in some situations. So how do we reduce our costs? Maybe we can find automated ways to replace expensive workers. Interesting. So you have to think about it in terms of the business because an employment, it's like some people for some reason think that a job is just a one-way thing, like it's just them, the employee. But there's an employer in the mix too, right? There's employee and employer, right? That's what a job is. It's an agreement but with an employer to pay you to do work. And you're like, yeah, I'll agree to that. I'll do the work, just pay me. Well, there's two people there. There's two parties there. There's the employer, employee, right? So like it's not just you, it's not just the employee that wants higher pay. It's the employer that's saying, I want to save money. So you have to come into an agreement to get paid. Yeah, this is all basic stuff, right? Anyway, I think some people don't understand it for some reason. Los Angeles, similar discussions are going on in Los Angeles to limit the minimum wage for airport workers by $30 by the same year. What do you think the repercussions of this are going to be? Like, I'm wondering. I am not an economist. Like, I don't know too much about the economy, but I can imagine that if companies are forced now, if the airport says, yeah, we want to increase wages, we're making enough money, we can afford it. Fine, that's on the individual company. But if it's like a mandate by the government, I can imagine a lot of companies being like, F this, I'm leaving. Or, well, we have to shut down because we can't afford it. Or, okay, fine, you want to increase by that much. We can't afford it. So we're going to replace the workers with robots. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens with that. Small enterprises. So this is where there could be problems. Despite the efforts to raise wages, concerns have emerged regarding the impact on businesses, particularly small enterprises. Small companies can't necessarily afford, even big companies can't necessarily afford this. Like just because there's a big company doesn't mean they're making tons of profit. They could just be even just breaking even. Some lose money, but they just have investors, right? So like, um, but small companies, mom and pops and stuff like that, uh, if they're forced to pay more, like they could be just breaking even. Maybe they just started their business and they're like, oh crap, I have to pay $30 an hour for my person who bakes the cookies. And so, am I making any money? No, I'm not because I'm just starting and I have to pay this much. And so they're either going to have to try to, like I already said multiple times, they're going to have to find a way to do it, or they're going to be like, well, I guess I can't start a business like I wanted to. I wanted to start this cookie business, but now so there's going to be less people being able to start businesses. Small businesses are maybe going to go out of business, or they're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to move to Tennessee, um, where it's not as expensive, where I don't have to pay that much. Yeah, or Texas or whatever. Yup. Here's the guy. Here's the guy. The report underscored the cascading effects of wage hikes, citing layoffs across various sectors. Yeah. So there's an actual report. I want to read this report. Layoffs across various sectors, fast food, healthcare, and hospitality. Well, yeah. So again, like it's not that hard to figure this out. But people, I guess, like this guy and think that, oh yeah, this is good. This is good for our society in California. Oh, that's just a small side effect. All these companies like um, having all these layoffs, which isn't that the opposite of what we're trying to do? Is we're trying to increase wages, but then people are getting laid off. So some people's wages are increasing, a few. So is that better? Is it better to be like, well, more for a few people, but all these other people can get laid off? That's fine. Like, is that better? Is that a better thing? I don't think so. 10,000 fast food jobs were reportedly lost following the implementation of the $20 minimum wage. Obviously, like, how could that be not obvious? Because that's high. That's a lot. I mean, of course, yes, I know the argument is like, well, it's not a lot for living in California. Yeah, but again, we need to solve the problem of how expensive it is in here, which is not raising the minimum wage does not solve that problem. So, and now we're getting the repercussion of higher minimum wage by people getting fired, laid off, and whatever, companies not being able to afford that. So we're causing more problems here. So, like, how is this helping? How is it helping? McDonald's increased labor costs. Yup. Businesses might react to increased labor costs by potentially raising prices. So then you're back at square one. A move that could add strain to the economy alongside the prospects of increased automation. Increased automation. There you go. They're going to try to solve this problem. The companies. What are they going to do? Raise prices. Then what? Well, now I'm going to have to buy a more expensive burger. Oh, shoot. I don't have enough money now because it's more expensive. Let me raise wages again. Oh, shoot. The burger went up again. Let me raise weight. Do you not like, does that not make sense? I mean, I'm sure to the millions of people watching this video that, of course, it makes sense. The millions of people watching my video. Automation. Uh, California's existing position as a front runner in automation. Businesses under pressure from rising minimum. Yeah, automation. So like, was it Taco Bell? The kiosk they want everybody to order on the kiosks now. Even higher wages. The reported highlighting the escalated nature of the issue, with various groups advocating for even higher wages because they don't understand. Janitors in California, janitors are now pushing for $25 an hour, while some labor proponents are pushing for a universal $20 minimum wage. But that's not going to stop. That's just to start. $20, and let's go up to 30, and then what? 40, 50, 60? You think companies are going to be able to afford that? Start a business and see how much you're willing and able to pay your employees. Then, see, this is what I think. You can't ask for a minimum wage. This is what the law I would implement. You are not allowed to ask for a higher minimum wage until you've actually started a business, had employees, and paid them that wage that you want. Because then you would be able to see what it's like. And you'd have to and then you'd have some perspective, and you'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I can't afford $30 an hour for my new business that I just started to my employee." Traditional business model implementation of a $20 minimum wage for most fast food workers in California has disrupted this traditional business model. Franchise owners can no longer sustain the operations with minimum wages. And then guess what they're gonna have to do? Close down, so there's gonna be less businesses, and the ones that are gonna continue to exist are gonna be way more expensive. Inflation. The challenge of inflation is driving up the prices of essential ingredients. Fast food giants are faced with a dilemma: absorb the rising cost and risk financial instability, or pass on the expenses to customers, potentially alienating. And stuff's already super expensive as it is. Um, One of my favorite places is what is it? It's a chicken place. It's like rice and chicken. Flame broiler. Yeah, flame broiler. They're good. Chicken and rice meals. And so I get the Korean spicy chicken plate, which is the biggest one. It's like 2 pounds. Rice. The chicken's not that spicy, but it's tasty. And then they have a little salad, a little like cabbage salad, and then like a half an orange, I guess. And very good, very good. But they raised the prices recently. So I was like, man, is it going to go up again? Probably. So now instead of, I think it was before like maybe $12 for a plate, something like that. And now it's raised by like maybe $2 or something. So I think it's kind of close to like, I think it's close to 14 now, or around 14. I imagine it's going to go up again, 15, $16 now for that, which is, that's going to motivate me to eat there less. Like, what am I doing now spending like 15, $16 on a meal? Like $15, I could spend that at the store and make 3 great meals. $5 per meal. Are you kidding? I can make 3 really good meals. I can make my own chicken and rice with like various sauces and like seasonings that I could buy, and then like also like, I don't know, my own salad or whatever. I could buy a bagged salad and I'd still be well under. Well, I'd probably be like at $5 at that point. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. But flame broiler is really good. Oh yeah, it even talks about that. I didn't read this article before. Automated ordering kiosks. Yeah, see, robotic kitchen assistants have transitioned from the realm of science fiction to a tangible reality. While these advancements promise increased efficiency, yeah. So then, what are human workers gonna do? Well, what other jobs are they gonna move to? This is, we're talking about like new workers, right? People who are just going into the workplace, or people who don't have a lot of skills elsewhere, and so they just get these jobs at like restaurants and stuff. Um, so less jobs. Okay, is that good? And I mean, so I'll tell you, I like self checkout. So kind of, I'm kind of like, I guess you could call that hypocritical in a way. I'm not necessarily for, the thing is, I'm not necessarily for uh replacing people with like tech and stuff. I'm not necessarily against that. I'm just saying, like, from the perspective of like this story and people who want raising wages and people to make more money, it's bad because when their jobs are getting replaced, because then they don't make any money at all. So from this perspective, I'm like questioning it. I'm like, you really want this to happen? But I personally like self checkout at the store. It's much more efficient. It's just a better service, or a better like situation, right? And now I even go to Amazon Prime. That Not Amazon Amazon Fresh. Amazon Fresh. I go there all the time now to shop. And that's even more automated because you don't even have to, you just scan your QR code to get in, scan it to get out, and then you don't even have to like pay anything. You don't even have to take out your credit card or anything. So it's even easier. And if I wanted to, I could do the palm thing where you can scan your palm. And then I wouldn't even have to open up my QR code. So I'm gonna try that. I guess it's fine if they have my palm data, whatever. But anyways, the point is I like things like that that make things that had a lot of friction in the past, like going to the store, waiting in line for 10 minutes because it's busy, trying to weave through people, where now I can just go in and out super quickly. And so things like that, I'm fine with. But like, and then, yeah, sometimes there's lines at a restaurant and stuff. So that's a similar thing too. But sometimes I do like to talk to someone and like order from them or whatever. But anyway, fully automated systems. And finally, consumer preferences. Consumer preferences are evolving towards healthier options, with health conscious Californians opting for fresher alternatives over traditional fast foods. Chains that fail to adapt to the shifting risk losing shift home cooked meals a bit. All right, I don't know what that has to do with minimum wage. What is this? Layoffs. The future is uncertain. Layoffs, reduced hours, and closures loom. Yeah, so that's basically it. I don't know. If you're for this, then I'd love to hear why. Truly, I would. Maybe you have some reason that makes sense. So far, none of this makes sense to me. So that's about it. Next video is going to be about Queer Planet, I guess. That's on my list anyway. The Queer Planet trailer, which should be fun. I kind of want to watch it actually. Not sure if I agree with the premise, at least some of the premises. Queer Planet is a movie, I guess, or maybe it's a show. I don't know. Where apparently there's queer animals that exist. So we'll find out why. Talk to you later.